Let me know if you can hear me okay. I'm using I'm using my old phone. So this camera's not gonna be quite as good. But what up? What's up? I wasn't gonna I was kind of holding off to do this chapter. I looked at it and I was like, it's a Cecilia POV, and I'm just like, oh my god, I don't want to read this shit. And so I kind of put it off by a day because I could have done this. Um, I could have done this Friday, but I decided to do it today instead. But I'm gonna just get into it. I'm gonna just get into it because maybe I might be surprised. Maybe it might be an actual a good chapter. Not entirely sure, but um, let's see. All right, 471 falling into place. Okay, let me know if you can hear me. Okay. Okay. All right. But okay, so chapter 471 falling into place. Everything was falling into place. With shield generators keeping the dragons at bay, the instillers were able to work freely and establish a ring of disrupting artifacts that worked to distort and interrupt the rift between Ephiodus and Dicathan. While the shield generators protected us from the dragons and Dicathan, okay, the shield generators protected us from the dragons and Dicathan, these disruption artifacts prevented Indrath from sending support from Ephiodus, effectively cutting the two worlds off from one another. Okay, so it seems to me like the shield generators. So the shield generators protect them from the dragons in Dicathan, and then the disruption artifacts protects them from the dragons in Ephiodus. So from them being able to send any sort of reinforcements to Dicathan. That's what it seems like. Okay. Okay, so that's how that works. Let me change this really quick. Boom. Okay. All right. So where am I at? So instinctively, I waited. Wait, no. I skipped. The dense ambient mana of the rift itself powered both arrays. The dense ambient mana of the rift itself. So wait, the rift has mana. Huh. So I guess maybe the rift has like extra mana compared to just regular regular mana. I'm guessing. Huh. If Indrath were somehow able to stop the flow of mana, we had enough power and batteries to implement the next stage of the plan. Wait, how would he stop the flow of mana though? The dense ambient mana of the rift itself powered both arrays. So I'm guessing like the array between Dicathan and the generators and then the disruption artifacts maybe, or maybe just the array between Dicathan and Ephiodus maybe. I'm not 100% sure. But anyway, we had enough power in the batteries to implement. So wait, if you were somehow able to stop the flow of mana, I'm still don't understand how are you able to stop the flow of mana. We had enough power and batteries to implement the next stage of the plan, and if that fails, the wraiths themselves become the source of mana. Oh wow, wow! They're gonna completely just like take out the wraiths. That's that's pretty wild. So if the batteries don't work as a source of mana, they're gonna take the mana away from the wraiths themselves. Whoo, okay. Instinctively, I waited for the judgmental evaluation of my thoughts from Tessia. So it's crazy to me how she's just like, oh, Tessia is the one that's gonna be judgmental about just killing people for a source of mana, but she doesn't have any problem at all with just killing people for a source of mana. I mean, she's just no humanity at all. So she waited for the judgmental evaluation of my thoughts from Tessia, who hovered near the surface of my consciousness. You've already considered your justifications for why such a cruel act is necessary, Tessia said in answer to the spotlight of my attention. All I'll say is that you've come a long way, Cecilia. If you're feeling guilt for your cruelty to these soldiers, since before now, you've only ever looked at them as tools. I bristled, but knew there was no point in arguing against the feeling of guilt warming its way through my guts. I don't know, man. I can't. She is too wishy-washy, back and forth. I don't know what she thinks, what she feels. All I do is I judge her, and I'm talking about Tessia, by the way. Not Tessia, I'm talking about Cecilia. All I know is I judge her based off of her actions. Her actions show that she's a cruel, evil, heartless bitch who doesn't care about any other people and is willing to do any and everything it takes to fulfill her fantasy dream that a grown-up promised her. That's it. I mean, that's it. So any of this guilt shit don't mean anything to me at all. So she said there was no arguing against the warming guilt or the guilt that was worming its way through my guts. Not when the person I was arguing with was already in my head. It may be unpleasant, but that doesn't make it any less necessary. Besides, it's a grown-up's plan, and they're his soldiers to do with as he wills. All these excuses she's trying to make. Oh, yeah, it's not my plan. I'm just following orders. It reminds me of the people who just like, oh, yeah, I'm breaking down your door and enslaving you, and, I'm doing this against your will. Don't blame me. I'm just following orders. They told me to do this. Take it up with the people who told me to do it. Even though I know it's wrong. Hey. I'm just following orders. I'm just doing what I'm told. Okay? That's it. Anyway, I sighed. Even as the words formed in my head, knowing how it sounded. Regardless, I don't need your affirmation. And yet, recently, you've been poking around inside my mind to see what I think more often. So this must be Cecilia or Tessia talking to her. Like, oh, you've been poking around inside my mind to see what I think more often. Your insight into these events is valuable, I admitted, while forcefully pushing down the more honest. But I just can't. I can't deal with this. Like, oh, I'm saying one thing, but then if I were to dig deep, here's how I honestly feel. Oh, my honest feelings are warming its way up. Like, I don't fucking. Ugh. This is what irritates the fuck out of me with this character. It's just like I don't know what she is. She's like, oh, she acts one way, she says one thing, she does one thing, but then there's like, oh, maybe I feel guilty. Oh, maybe I'm doing this because, maybe it's because it's just like, I don't fucking care. All we do is judge you off of what you do. That's it. What you think and how you feel, all that shit's irrelevant. Completely irrelevant. All right, your insight into these events is valuable, I admit it, while forcefully pushing down a more honest, but also more embarrassing reason for my behavior. Yes. You don't know who the fuck you are. I'm glad you recognize this fact, Tessia's voice projected into my head, was even and without sarcasm. Shaking off the brief but frustrating conversation, I returned my attention to my immediate surroundings. The dragons continued their bombardment of the outer shield for another hour, but stopped with the arrival of their leader. I recognized Sharan of the Indrath clan by description. A big, bone-white, battle-scarred lizard with purple eyes and tattered wings. He spent some time conferring with the other dragons present, of which there were now many. It's almost like they've brought every dragon in Daikathan, I mused. Eventually, Sharan approached the barrier, flying in his dragon form. His wings beat slowly, and his voice issued from him as a bone-deep rumble. The legacy, chief hope of a mad basilisk who has herself been convinced she is a god. I regarded him coolly, but didn't rise to his bait. Straight to the point then, he rumbled. What does Agrona want? He has captured the rift to Ephiodus, but he cannot use it. Nor can you hope. So I think when you say he cannot use it, I'm thinking he cannot send anybody into the rift to Ephiodus. I think that's what he means by that. But he cannot use it. Nor can you hope to keep it, which means this is a bargaining tactic. Tell me your master's offer, and I will confer with Lord Indrath. I raised one brow. So what, she thinks that he can't contact Kessis, I guess, is what she might be thinking? But then Winsome said that, because Winsome took Arthur's, his family to Ephiodus. So I guess he said that, you can still go to Ephiodus too. So maybe she doesn't know that yet. I raised one brow. Don't lie to me, dragon. Travel between worlds requires this rift to be accessible. Even with your teleportation artifacts, you are cut off. The High Sovereign has no message for you, no request. You are irrelevant in this and all things. From the corner of my eye, I saw one of the instillers on the ground reviewing a message, his eyes darting to me every couple of lines. Feel free to exhaust yourself against the shields, if you must, or don't. The noise is irritating as your efforts are futile. Turning my back on Sharon and Dreth, I flew toward the ground. Feeling good about the brief exchange, it gained me nothing to have won the verbal spar, but I was already beginning to chafe as my role as stationary guardian of the impenetrable shield and releasing some of that frustration as barbed words made me feel a little better. What is it? I asked, my feet touching the ground. The instiller who had watched me approach from the corner of his eye swallowed visibly. A dispatch from Scythe Nico. He held out the magical scroll, which displayed words written on a matched scroll in Nico's possession. I read through it once rapidly, then forced myself to go over it again, slower. An emanation, powerful mana, sustained somehow, wrapped around a wait, what? An emanation, powerful mana, sustained somehow, wrapped around a pocket of amethyst magic that can only be ether. I felt myself frowning, struggling to comprehend everything that Nico had attempted to explain in the short message. Gray, she still called him Gray. Gray hadn't been at the wall, as expected. He had carefully hidden his real location, even from his own people. The emanation of ether was interesting, though. The mana signature I sensed before the battle. Huh. Okay, so I guess she's now maybe trying to find Arthur at this point. The emanation of ether was interesting, though. The mana signature I sensed before the battle. It was camouflage, a false signal that mimicked the presence of his bond, and the distortion caused by ether could only be intended to disguise his real location, of course. And I was the only person in Dicathon that might be able to sense it, unless he hid from his own dragon allies as well. Okay. So she's trying to use her brain to try to figure this out. I mean, Arthur's got to have some sort of contingency plan for her as well, right? I mean, he knows how powerful she is, and then Agrona, but Agrona's probably not getting his hands dirty. Agrona's probably working on some shit right now, getting some things set up. But maybe he's using her. Maybe Agrona's using her as like to stall, as like bait or something like that. I don't know, but I'm guessing Agrona's not just sitting by, just chilling. So it was a camouflage. So she was the only person in Dicathon that might be able to sense it, unless he hides from his own dragon allies as well. The dispatch then went on to detail the efforts of Vildoriel and the Dicathon's new weapon that had been revealed, a fusion of organic mana beast parts along with magical and mechanical components. I couldn't picture what Nico described, but I felt certain that even Agrona hadn't accounted for such a thing. The ex-Scythe Ceres had discovered a way to end the fighting in Vildoriel and keep her people safe from the curse Agrona had hidden in their blood and their runes. But Nico expressed a strong sense of confidence that Arthur had not hidden himself in the city. Okay, so Nico is confident that Arthur didn't hide himself in the city. He didn't hide himself in the wall. Okay. Additionally, the ulterior objective to capture the sister or mother had failed, and Scythe Melsry had gone missing. Okay, so they know about Melsry missing. Okay. As I read through it all for a second time, my focus returned to the part about the etheric emanation at the wall. Etheric emanation at the wall. I wonder what that means. Biting the inside of my lip, I racked my brain for what else it could mean, but I could think of no other way to read it than my first impulse. Gray was calling me out directly. Why would he be calling her out directly? That don't even make any sense. This conjuration was meant to blind me to his real location, and he intended me to know and understand that fact as well. Wait. Is she doing like this like double trickery type of thing where it's like, oh, I know you're smart, So I'm not going to do something because it's going to be too obvious and you're smart enough to know that I'm not going to do that. But then again, it could be the obvious thing and I'm accounting for you to not think that it's the obvious thing. But then it's like, okay, what if I think that he thinks that I think that I won't do, you know, maybe it might be one of those things. But I'm not really sure. So the counter agent was meant to blind her from his real location and intended me to know and understand that fact as well. I found myself wishing Nico were here instead of just this note. I considered sending him a reply and waiting for a response, but I didn't want to give him the impression that I couldn't think for myself. Oh my god, yo, like what? Like, oh, showing him that he's needed, maybe that's not a bad thing for the person that you're quote unquote in love with. I mean, who wants to be in love with someone who feels like, oh, I don't need you, I can live without you, no big deal. But then he's like, oh, I don't want him to think that I need him. That's funny as hell. Besides, I already knew exactly what my mission parameters were. The real question was whether or not I could continue to blindly follow them. After all, the rift is sealed. I am wasted here. There was little room to get away from anyone within the shielded area. The wraiths they flew in a perimeter, staring out at the dragons, just as pent up as I was, while the dozens of instillers ensured the equipment continued to function perfectly. But I moved to a secluded corner and sank to the ground between two of the shield generators. Closing my eyes, I let my focus expand out into my surroundings. So I'm guessing she's like kind of meditation type of shit. The balanced flow of mana in and out of the rift no longer existed, leaving the atmosphere around the shield thick with it, though it was dimmed by the blinding presence of so many Asuran mana signatures. But like before, I continued expanding, my reach farther and farther, until my senses reached the wall. There, I again felt the hint of his bond's mana, as well as that telltale distortion that gave away a powerful source of ether. But I didn't stop there. Instead, I continued pushing, reaching. I'm messing up this word. Pushing, reaching, sensing even beyond the Grand Mountains and across the Eleanor wasteland to the north. She can really expand her senses that far? That's crazy as hell, man. That's wild. As if I were Zeus looking down from the top of Mount Olympus, I saw the tide of mana as it moved in waves across the entire continent, spread out before me, breathless at its beauty. I eased my mind into that ocean. So her mind is going into the mana that is like in the atmosphere moving in waves? Letting my focus be pushed and pulled, not by my purpose, but by the mana itself. I thought I already understood mana, better than anyone else in this world. But I had never experienced it like this. I had no words to describe the wonder of the phenomenon. So she's basically taking her consciousness and expanding it outward and putting it in the mana and letting the mana travel and guide her across the... Man, that's wild as hell, man. Do you still see this world as fake? Tessia thought, her voice like a stone in the calm ocean. Some kind of limbo that will cease to exist once you return to your old world? What? The gift you have. See, I just hate the whole conversation between her. Like, what is she trying to convince to this girl? This girl is just like, she's fucking retarded. Like, I don't know like what else to say. Like, she's just, I can't even say she's a child anymore. Like, she's just, I don't know. I don't know what Tessie is even trying to even do by even talking to her at all. I really don't. The gift you have. You may be the only one in the world who can see this. She was quiet, musing, then continued. I look down on this and feel my heart break, knowing the turmoil and suffering happening beneath these vistas. It just made me wonder if the sight affected you. But What kind of impact can this have on someone who doesn't believe in the reality around them? And more importantly, of their effect on that reality? I didn't answer. Because the truth was I had no answer. I had used the thought of this life as a kind of temporary purgatory to soothe my own guilt at what I had been asked to do. But I was not a child who had convinced herself that this world wasn't. Oh, you're not a child anymore? Okay. I'm not a child who had convinced herself that this world wasn't real. The thought brought me out of my reverie and firmly back to my purpose. I was no longer floating on the tide of the ever moving surface of that ocean of manna, but instead, I was fighting against it, pressing outward, expanding to cover more and more of the continent with my senses. The feeling of peace faded, and I was once again aware of the dragons massing around the shield, my 10 soldiers and scientists filling the small space, and the dispatch from Nico in my hands. As my untethered mind reached across Sapin, Darv, and Elenwar, I felt those places where the mana was distorted by ether. Wait, so she felt the places where the mana was distorted by ether brush against the surface of my senses. Wait, I felt those places where the mana was distorted by ether brush against the surface of my senses. Okay, now I understand how that was read. In each place, there was a strong presence of ether. Hopefully this isn't too loud. Let me put it down. Hopefully it's not super loud. In each place, there was a strong presence of ether mingled with the mana signature of the Gray's Dragon Bond. Based on what Nico has said, each one was likely a conjuration. A conjuration? Right. Like a fake, like just the mana, right? In each place, there was a strong... So Sapin, Darv, and Elenwar. So each place, there was a strong presence of ether mingled with the mana signature of Gray's Dragon Bond. Based on what Nico has said, each one was likely a conjuration. A shell of mana housing a core of densely packed ether. Oh, wow. So Nico already knows that it's just fake, right? Okay. The closest was the wall. After that, an isolated place deep in the Elenar waste. This, by comparison, was a tiny blip, barely sensible against the great emptiness. Wait, this by comparison. So okay, so she's judging, I guess, the strength of these conjurations, I guess you want to call it. The closest was the wall. After that was an isolated place deep in the Eleanor waste, or Eleanor waste. This, by comparison, was a tiny blip, barely sensible against the great emptiness due to the lack of atmospheric mana. The outskirts of the wasteland were like storms, where new mana rushed into the void. But the interior of Elenwar was still nearly empty of it. Okay. The third signal to appear was in central Darv, where I thought the Dicathian rebel refugees, or the Dicathian rebels' refuge must have been, which was discovered after Arthur's escape from the Victoriad. It was stronger and brighter than the wall, not by a significant margin, but the difference was clear. Others became visible as well, near the city of Ediston and on the island. So that's 4. And then on the island off the south, eastern coast of the Beastglades. That's 5. And then still, as my consciousness expanded to contain the entire continent. But most of these matched the wall in intensity, and I quickly wrote them off as decoys. So she's judging it based off of the intensity. We already had troops moving in those areas. They aligned perfectly with where we've seen increased military activity. They would verify whether or not Gray was really in each location without help from me. Okay, so I got her. So she's saying that they already got people there, so she's not even going to consider that, because even if he was there, they'll let everybody know because they're already in the area. So she's probably going to focus on areas where people aren't in those sections. The signatures in the waste and in Darv, though, were different. One nearly hidden, the other burning brighter and stronger than all the others. Neither had been a focal point in Dicathian troop buildup or fortification, like the wall had been. Both were far enough from civilization to avoid collateral damage if the locations were attacked. and both, I knew from Tessia's shared memories, were important to him. Okay, okay. The emanation I could sense from Ellenwire was very close to where the capital city of Zestire, I guess. Yeah, I think Zestire used to be. He had lived there with Tessia for much of his childhood, and the burned village beneath Dar was where he went when the Dacathians lost the war, where he reunited with his mother and sister after Agrona very nearly captured them. Either Gray is trying to hide where he thought I wouldn't be able to sense. Wait. Let me reread this. Huh. Either Gray is trying to hide where he thought I wouldn't be able to sense him in Ellenwire, where there is little mana to give him away, or he failed to perfectly replicate his own etheric signature, which causes a stronger disruption in the mana than these false beacons he had created. I'm a little confused. So he failed to perfectly replicate his own etheric signature, which causes a stronger disruption in the mana than these. So okay. So she's saying, okay, I think I understand what she's saying. She's saying that his own etheric signature causes a stronger disruption in the mana. So if he wanted to fake like he was actually there, the beacons that he created should have been a stronger distortion of the mana around them to make it seem like it was actually him. So she's saying that he either failed to replicate his own signature, or he was trying to hide where he thought that she wouldn't be able to sense him. That's kind of how I'm taking this. Either way, he had made a mistake. But which direction does that mistake lean? I struggled to bring to mind everything I knew about Gray from our world and combine it with what I learned about him in his life as Arthur Lewin. The ancient mage's village makes sense. Right, she's talking about the ancient mage's village makes sense. I'm guessing she's talking about the sanctuary is what I think she's talking about. If Arthur was confident in his ability to disguise his real location, if Arthur was confident in his ability to disguise his real position, my thoughts continue, to provide so many false positives, only to hide where his real signature couldn't be sensed at all within Ellenwire, were truly. Maybe I'm not reading this. If Arthur was confident in his ability to disguise his real position, my thoughts continue, to provide so many false positives only to hide where his real signature couldn't be sensed at all. So if he was confident in his ability to disguise his position, he made the false positives only to hide. So this is where he's like, oh, if he really is going to hide and where his real signature couldn't be sensed at all within Ellenwire would truly be the act of a coward. I still don't get that, like, truly be an act of a coward. That doesn't make any sense to me. That really doesn't. So, let me see. Arthur isn't a coward, Tessia thought matter-of-factly. And yet, either way, he hides while his allies fight and die. Oh my God, she's really judging this motherfucker, talking about, oh, he's a coward because he hides while his allies fight and die. But she's the one that's willing to just kill millions of people and, oh, I don't get, man, I swear, oh Lord, this character. And yet he hides while his allies fight and die to conceal his location, I answered. Tessia somberly considered my words and didn't respond right away. I'm trying to get more going. Oh, shit. Oh, hurt. I'm hurt. Okay. I agree with you. I thought to Tessia, making my mind up. He isn't a coward, but he is overconfident in his own abilities. The moment I decided on the course of action, I was presented with another problem. Standing, I left the meager cover of the shielding artifacts and inspected the smooth shield that wrapped around our location, extending high into the air to contain the rift. A secondary ring of artifacts projected distorting mana directly into the rift. A secondary ring of artifacts projected distorting mana directly into the rift. Okay. Okay. Preventing anyone from coming through from the other side. But I was kept within the shield just as effectively as the horde of dragons were kept out. I could penetrate the barrier, of course, but doing so would expose me to Sharon's army and would even momentarily open up the equipment inside to their attacks. That wasn't acceptable. All right, so how is she going to leave? I ignored the fact that Agrona would definitely find my abandoning my post to be equally unacceptable. If I brought him Gray, however, I knew that he would forgive me. All right, so it looked like she decided on what she was going to do. It looked like she decided what she's going to do now. So I'm kind of at this point just thinking like, okay, so what is it that she's going to do? Because she's thinking that he's not a coward, but I don't know. Is she going to go to the sanctuary? Because isn't he at the sanctuary? I flagged down, Lorcan? The Wraith assigned to support me and deliver my orders down to all the others. Scarred and pale, with jagged, unnaturally shaped horns, Larkan, I think that's how you say that, or Lorcan, had an unpleasant look to him, but he was a real soldier. He lacked the self-importance of so many of the other wraiths and pursued Agrona's goals feverishly and without question. Legacy? He asked, his ruby eyes empty of anything except expectation. The situation has changed. I am needed out in the field. I explained, I don't even know how to say that word. Perfunctorily, I don't even know. Perfunctorily? I think that's how you say that. I'm leaving you in command of the rift. Keep the instillers on task and the shielding arrays functional, and I have no doubt everything will continue to unfold as predicted. If Lorcan was surprised, he gave no indication. Of course, Legacy, at the High Sovereign's will. I nodded in dismissal, and he returned to the air to go notify the leaders of each Wraith battle group. Returning to the relative solitude between both of the two shield artifacts, I sat down cross-legged and waited. If it had been maybe 30 minutes since Sharon had arrived and the occasional attacks against the shield eased, I didn't think they would wait much longer before attempting an assault with their leader present. So what is she doing though? Is she waiting for them to like? I really still don't understand what exactly she's doing, because I don't know what she's waiting for. Because either she can leave or she can't leave. While I waited, I extended my senses out through the ground, so her senses can go through the ground, feeling for where the shield emanated and closed off beneath us, as well as where the soil was softest. Oh, so she's gonna try to leave underground and maybe open up an opening, and like, is she gonna like travel underground to get away? And then hide her mana signature so nobody can see and know that she even left? As well as where the soil was softest. If I were to leave, I needed to do so unnoticed if I planned to search for Gray without being hounded by dragons. 5 more minutes passed in relative silence. Then, all at once, the atmosphere outside the shield transformed into a storm of mana, the air going white as if it were caught in the heart of a lightning bolt. The hair on my arms lifted at the charge in the air, and my skin was prickled with goose flesh. The ground and sky alike split open as dozens of Asuran spells crashed against the shield. I took hold of the earth attribute mana, and the soil flowed like water, allowing me to sink down into it. So she's using them attacking the shield as like a distraction, is what I'm thinking about. At the same time, I clenched tightly into my I clenched tightly onto my mana, preventing even the tiniest leak that might be sensible as a moving mana signature. To more completely camouflage myself, I soothed over any movement in atmospheric mana that might provide. She fucking crazy. She smoothed over any movement in atmospheric mana that might provide some hint of my whereabouts to the sensitive dragons. So she's like really like, I mean, her mastery over mana is kind of crazy. But my thing is this though: is she stronger than a Grona right now? Because I don't think so. Which is crazy to me because I thought once she unlocked her core to where it imploded, I thought once she did that, then she was like going to be stronger than a Grona because the Grona doesn't have a core that's like throughout his body or whatever. He still has a core that can be destroyed. So I don't know. But so where was I at? I think I was, yeah. The noise of the battle changed from the sharp crack of thunder to the deep rumble of an avalanche. The earth attribute mana projected me forward through the ground itself, which folded out of the way before filling back in behind me as if I were swimming through the hard packed dirt. The tangible force that made up the barrier loomed in front of me. Reaching into it, I took hold of a thread of that mana and pulled. Like the seam in a stitched fabric, it came undone and I passed through. I waited on the other side for a few moments until the barrier healed itself. I mean, that's smart though. I will say that's smart to get out of the barrier, like to get out of the barrier like that, and then like underground, like that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. She's literally just like I guess swimming into the ground, like the soil's water. And I passed through. I waited on the other side for a few moments until the barrier healed itself, powered by the constant pressure of the array artifacts above, then continued. Even with my nearly perfect control of mana, it was still more difficult and slower to part the earth and the network of roots woven through it than to fly through the air. Since the dragons could range so far so quickly, and more was still trickling in from across the continent, I wanted to ensure I wouldn't be detected, and so I flowed along deep under the ground for a long time. Dungeons and caves dotted the landscape of the Beastglades, but I maneuvered around them rather than slow my progress further by going through. If Arthur is really unable to defend himself, then he has no choice but to hide, and his friends, all the people who love him, defend him willingly, Tessia said out of the blue. Oh, so this is Tessia saying, if Arthur is really unable to defend himself, then he has no choice but to hide, and his friends, all the people who love him, defend him willingly, she said out of the blue. It took me a moment to connect her thoughts to our previous conversation. And do you really love him? I didn't think I needed to ask since our minds were connected, but Tessia's emotions around Gray were complex and difficult to parse even when she wasn't trying to disconnect me from them. I really don't care about any of this shit. I don't care about what she thinks about Tessia. I don't care what Tessia thinks about her. Like, it's all just kind of pointless. I have since I was just a little girl, she said after a very long pause. He was my first love, I think. Why she say it like that? She was her first love. As if like she doesn't love him anymore. Like, oh, he was my first love. And now I moved on to like my second love or something. It's kind of strange why she said that. But now you know what he is, who he is. That he lied to you the entire time you've known. Oh my God. Now that you know what he is, who he is, that he lied to you the entire time you've known him, with all that baggage. It's funny she says baggage. With all that baggage, can you still really love him? She don't even know what love is. And she's trying to talk to somebody else about what, like, love. Can you really love somebody? Like, you claim you love Nico, but yet you can't even make him feel needed or valued. You can't even touch him. You can't do anything to make him feel better. It's just like, you can't even tell him the truth. I just don't get it. I don't think Arthur ever pretended to be anyone except who he really was, she answered slowly, forming every word with care. I can only imagine how hard it must have been for him. The loneliness, the guilt of having to keep such a secret. He lied to you because he had to, I continued, my mental voice softening. What other choice did he have? She asked. I won't pretend I understand what it means to build emotionally on top of all this. Is the love of a child real? Maybe not. But I know that I care for him, respect him, and want him to have a happy life after all this. If that isn't a foundation for real love, then I'm not sure what is. Okay, cool. Her words help me give context to my own complex emotions. I feel pretty much the same about the lies Nico. You're going to compare Nico to what Arthur did with Tessia? Like, that shit's not the same at all. Like, Arthur wasn't trying to manipulate Tessia to do some shit. Like Nico literally took your memories and implanted him instead of someone else, so that way you thought of him as the hero. Like, bro, that's like, I mean, he didn't do it, but he like consented to it. Like, bro, that's not even close to the same. You just lied about who you really are in your past, which, why would you tell somebody the truth? You know, like, why would you tell somebody that? This motherfucker literally consented to, like, manipulating your memories and taking, like, bruh, like, it's so crazy to me, bruh. So anyway, so she helped to give context to her complex emotions. I feel pretty much the same about the lies Nico helped the grown-up place in my head. They were for a purpose, and Nico felt like he had to do it. Really? He had to do it? It was for my own good. Like Gray to you. That's not what I meant, Tessia said tentatively. She paused for a few seconds. Arthur needed to protect himself with lies. Right or wrong, it wasn't an action. It wasn't an action made to control me. Okay. It was not difficult to read the unspoken implication of her words, which I considered in silence for some time. I just don't. I don't give a fuck about this character, bro. Like, I swear to God, every time she thinks, I'm just like, you're fucking stupid. Just move on to the next scene. Like, I don't care. Oh Lord, this is really difficult for me to read. Okay, like this is really difficult. It was not difficult to read the unspoken implication of her words, which I considered in silence for some time. You think you're justified in forgiving Gray's lies, but I'm foolish for forgiving Nico and Agrona. Why does that keep fucking beeping, yo? What the hell is going on? As if anticipating what I'd say, she replied immediately. I think you're still trying to figure out who you are, Cecilia, and that you struggle to make decisions you are confident in because, I mean, they can, if Turtle Me is trying to make Cecilia to be an empathetic person, like a person that we can empathize with, right? You know, like, oh my God, you know, she's been through a lot and blah, blah. Like, I mean, there is no empathy, right? Like, she's just a clueless, evil monster who's bipolar and schizophrenic and just like everything, all the diagnosable psychosis, she has all of them. I think you're still trying to figure out who you are, Cecilia, and that you struggle to make decisions you're confident in because you constantly question the source of any thought you have. Is it you or Agrona or even me? I don't want to be the voice in your ear guiding you to do things my way. Again, I had no answer. And so we both fell silent, our thoughts like two murky clouds just intermingling at the edges. I let the sight of the soil unfolded in front of me pull me in and wipe away any lingering thoughts about Gray or Nico or myself. I lifted up from the soil only after verifying that there was no dragons for a very long way. then flew out over the Grand Mountains. The cold air felt good after the claustrophobic tunneling of my underground flight. The mountains and then the desert beyond flew by in a blur, reminding me of the teleportation gates utilized by the Decathians. They were um, they were relics of the ancient mages, much like the underground village I found as I lowered myself through a gaping hole in the desert floor, where the cavern ceiling had partially collapsed. Huge piles of sand had accumulated below, covering half the cavern. So she's definitely going to the relic, not the relic tombs. I'm surprised that she hasn't been in the relic tombs at all. I really am surprised by that. But the sanctuary is where she's at. That's what it seems like. Which I mean, Arthur is in the sanctuary though, so I don't know, man. I don't know. There's got to be some sort of like trap or something. Like I don't know. I don't know. Huge piles of sand had accumulated below, covering half the cavern. What I could see of the rest was completely demolished. According to the rumors our spies had sifted through, Gray fought an actual Asura here. Looking at the damage, I could believe it. This close, I can now sense the ether mana emanation from below, even without forcefully extending my senses. Despite the winding network of tunnels that spread out from the destroyed village, the emanation was like a compass, pointing where I needed to go. Aside from a few huge rodent-like mana beasts, I saw nothing as I sped along the dark tunnels. My eyes and hands with mana in order to see. I was nearly at my target when dread suddenly came over me. Oh, so she's going through that area where the dread and all that shit is that spell back when they was like running away from Tacey and shit. Um, so the dread came over me, dousing my anticipation like wind to a candle flame. My feet touched the ground, then instinctively shuffled backwards as I searched the square hall for the source of my dread. It was like a miasma hanging in the air, an intangible thing with very real claws that wanted to rake at my eyes and lungs and heart. But there was no spell, no mana that I could. An etheric effect, I realized. A dread that can't be passed through or cast aside. The perfect layer of protection. Though I'd continue to waffle back and forth, second guessing my decision to come to Darv instead of Elenwar, I knew then that I'd chosen correctly. Oh, so she thinks that this dread shit is what Arthur's using to turn away anybody who wants to try to follow and find out where he's at. Gritting my teeth, I pushed outward with mana, both my own purified mana that circulated through my coreless body and the atmospheric mana that lingered in the tunnels deep below the ground. Cracks ran up the walls and spiderwebbed across the floor. Invisible distortions of light and heat flickered in the air. Ice condensed over the walls, then shattered and ran as water to a pool across the floor before hissing to a steam and circulating back into the air, where it was again forced outward from the pressure I exuded. The dread lessened, then receded. Still present but distant and lacking power, I couldn't control the ether, nor could I break the spell and end its effect. But by moving a strong enough force of mana, I had disrupted it momentarily. Wasting no time, I sped forward. See, this is weird though, because she kind of sped forward and she had to do all this shit in order to get through. Whereas Tacey went through that shit and it seemed like it didn't slow him down at all. So that's kind of interesting to me. When I turned the next corner, I came to an abrupt stop. A wall of living stone bisected the tunnel, moving constantly from left to right across the path. Despite the tons and tons of rapidly shifting stone, it hardly made a noise. What other trick do you have up your sleeve, Gray? I asked, my voice ringing loudly against the muffled rushing of the spell. As I watched it move, so is she really where he's at though? So he must got like some contingencies like waiting to like make sure that he's protected, right? But a wall of living stone though, that's kind of strange. What other trick do you have up your sleeve, Gray? As I watched it move, I noticed the small details. It wasn't a solid wall of stone, but many smaller plates that fitted together like a puzzle piece, all flowing within a groove cut perfectly to fit the machination. It radiated a power and alien flavor of mana. Alien flavor of mana? Okay. This, more than anything, suggested an origin that was neither Dicathian or Alacrian. Um, so it's not Dicathian or Alacrian. Maybe the Jinn? No, it can't be the Jinn. I don't know. I don't know. I pushed against the mana with my own, and it shoved back hard enough that I stumbled a step and was forced to catch my balance. A scowl fell across my face because I fucking hate being resisted. I want to control everything. God, Lord. Holding up one hand to help me focus, I grabbed hold of the rapidly shifting stone with earth attribute mana, trying to grind it to a halt. The interlocking plates of stone shivered as the power controlling them fought back against mine. Without releasing the pressure I was exerting, I reached for that power and tried to draw on it. It held, heavy and inexorable, as immovable as the roots of the world. I pulled harder, straining against the weight of that power, until the plates forming the moving wall splintered, shattering and grinding to a halt, filling the hallway with broken chunks of the rock. Walls trembled, and a terrible rumbling noise threatened to shake the very foundations of Dicathian to pieces. Then, as suddenly as it had happened, the shaking and grinding stopped. I bent down to inspect a chunk of the stone. It had a slight luster to it, dimmer than obsidian, and without the telltale smooth striations where the breaks happened. Instead, there were layers upon layers of compacted rock pressed together, almost like the rings of a tree. So it was like layers and layers of rock, I guess. It was difficult to put my finger on, but there was almost a kind of life to the stone. When I ran a finger along the rough surface of the break, goose flesh roughened my skin, and I pulled away. The hallway continued beyond the wall of moving stone into the darkness. Standing straight, I stared at the gap. I know you're here, sir. I'm sure you can hear me. I suppose threats or promises will be met with equal silence, so I won't insult you by trying to sway you from your course. But in 10 minutes, when you are taking your last ragged breaths, remember this moment and how you could have chosen differently. Okay, okay. So that must be it must be Ren. It's got to be Ren at this point. He's the only person that can like use Earth that way. She said it's not Alacrian or Dicathian, so it must be Ren. A dull chuckle echoed from the darkness, and a man stepped out of a shadow. And so I didn't know this. So Arthur had Ren there as protection, which makes sense because Ren was there and he knew where he was going to be at. So with him being there, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. But then again, she found him really fucking quick though. I don't know. A dull chuckle echoed from the darkness, and a man stepped out of the shadow and into the range of my mana-enhanced eyesight. His back had a slight hunch to it, enhancing the frail look of his physique. Dark, tired eyes stared at me from beneath a curtain of greasy black hair. Bravado. I think that's not bravo, it's bravado. That's what happens when you give a child endless power. You spend far too much of your energy convincing yourself you really are as great as people keep telling you, despite the fact that you feel like an imposter in your own skin. He cocked his head slightly, letting the greasy mop of hair hang down. Well, except that you're an imposter in someone else's skin, but never mind that. My jaw clenched painfully, and I lashed out with a crack of thunder and spear of lightning. The attack struck the Asura in the chest, and he exploded apart. His flesh and bones spraying across the smooth floor like a clatter, except it wasn't flesh and bones, but only more of the serrated stone. Oh yeah, so you got the clones. He got the clones. Okay, cool, cool. I didn't expect an Asura to play children's games. I said, trying and mostly succeeding to keep my voice level. If I'm not as powerful as they say, why run and hide? No words came back to me but my own voice resounding softly in the cramped space. Cautiously, I stepped through the gap in the hallway. Beyond, the tunnel almost immediately split into a Y shape before turning again shortly in both directions, limiting the distance I could see. The walls were made of the same type of stone. When I ran my hand down the wall, I found it warm to the touch, then pulled away when it thrown with a sort of pulse, much slower than my own heartbeat, but no less real. Gray's etheric signature resonated from my left, not far. Tessia's silent tension sat in the back of my skull like an impending migraine. I went to the left. In the low Okay, I went to the left and the low, narrow tunnel turned left again after 20 feet or so, only to turn right shortly after that. When I reached the next split, I understood. A maze. Okay, so you made a maze. Okay. So buying him time. Okay, cool. So how much time though? Because wouldn't she like explode this stone at some point? Closing my eyes, I honed in on a distortion in the mana I knew was gray. When I pulled at the earth attribute mana infused into the stone wall in that direction, the entire labyrinth quaked. I slammed my entire will against it and the wall exploded. Yep, well, she fucking exploded it like I thought. The labyrinth became a churning thresher of stone peaks or stone plates, moving in every direction around me, ducking beneath a guillotine sharp chunk. I wrapped myself in mana and watched breathlessly. It seemed to be wild chaos, but it wasn't. No, the rolling stone, in the form of tons upon tons of interlocking plates, was as controlled as the workings of a clock, fitted together just so, and sliding past each other with perfect integrity. I think that's, yeah, integrity. I think, am I saying that right? Yeah, I think that's right. It was truly a work of art, a use of mana so inexplicably beautiful that I could never hope to recreate it. So she's not perfect with mana. She said near perfect, but she ain't near perfect either. Like a stone in the clockwork, blah blah. She can never, like a stone in the clockwork. I interrupted the mechanism, and a few plates cracked against my mana, but others shifted seamlessly to replace them. In moments, the entire labyrinth had reformed around me, leaving me stranded at a dead end, the broken wall replaced by an entirely new one. Closing my eyes, I felt around me, tracing the lines of mana. The maze was thick with atmospheric earth attribute mana, like a heavy dust that clung to everything and choked the air. Arthur's signature radiated out of the center of the maze, but the brightness of the mana was such that I could cleanly follow the maze only with my senses. Okay, so she's probably going to easily get through this. I pulled back and slammed into the walls again. Again, they exploded, plates forming them, spinning through the air, reconnecting and reforming new walls before sliding smoothly back into place. I tried to see through the hole before it closed, but the chaos blinded me until the maze had reformed. Giving myself time to think, calm down, and absorb more mana, searching specifically for the pieces of the Asura's mana I could pluck away from the greater cloud, I began to follow the maze instead of attempting to smash my way through again. Moving cautiously, I maneuvered through the twists and turns. I tried to be patient and methodical. That, unfortunately, was not my strong suit. Damn this place, I cursed as I ran into yet another dead end. Bit by bit through the maze, I drew in hints of this Asura's mana, and my insight into its particular attributes grew. It wasn't the same as draining Dawn, the phoenix of all her mana, but I could feel the scales tipping in my direction moment by moment. Your control really is remarkable, a voice said from behind me, and I spun around to find a frail-looking Asura not 30 feet away, gaining insight into Titan mana by drawing directly on it, forcing it away from me. This is a kind of mastery I wouldn't have thought possible. I inspected the figure closely, looking for anything that might tell me if this was the real Asura or just another golem. I hadn't noticed before, but there was a subtle pattern to his skin and a sharpness of his features that replicated the texture of the stone maze. Likewise, it's pretty incredible that you can make such a convincing replica of yourself. I thrust forward with both hands, and a storm of hailstones, each one vibrating with a core of condensed sound attribute deviant mana, hissed down the hall. A wall. God, I'm confusing hall and wall. A wall of the moving stone plate shifted into place between me and the Asura, and a sound like an old earth gunfight, erupted from the hallways as the hailstones and the wall both exploded. The conjured wall collapsed, revealing the Asura, half his face blown away. The remaining part of his mouth smiled, and then the golem tipped backward and struck the floor and burst apart into a thousand sharp shards. See, I thought for a second that was really him, because he used the wall to like protect himself, but I guess it was all still just a golem. Instantly, I turned gravity against the stones, making them tumble across the floor to me. Mana was still wicking away from their surface, like gently smoking embers. I drew on the mana, pulling in as much as possible. Something clicked into place. I squared off with the maze wall that faced towards Arthur's signature. I took time to gather my power, letting purified mana wash out of me, collect across the surface of the stone wall, and creep into the minuscule cracks where the connecting plates intersected. Instead of slamming my will against the magic holding the walls in place all at once, I firmly but consistently ramped up the pressure, starting with a small push and then slowly applying more and more force. Soon the walls were quaking again, the opposing forces acting on the mana, compressing the individual particles like they were caught in a vice. The plates of stone warping to reveal the cracks between. Pressing clawed fingers of mana into the cracks, I peeled them apart, ripping my way through the wall. This time, when the surge of mana began to rebuild the labyrinth with me still inside it, I grabbed hold of the spell. Many thousands of stone plates separated, shifted, and then froze in air, hovering, deconstructed all around me, the individual motes of snow like a snow globe. Well, she's mastering this shit. The dust and stone swirled before me, manifesting. This seems like a really long ass chapter. The dust and stone swirled before me, manifesting the Asura yet again. He thrust forward, and a fist of stone struck my sternum, lifting me off the ground and sending my body flying backwards. Okay, we got our first blow. All right. As my concentration broke, my hold of his spell released, and the stone plate spun and twisted into place, reforming the maze. I smashed into a solid wall, which buckled, then went flying through it. Another wall rose to meet me, and then another, as I was driven through them like a hammered nail. Fighting to retain my senses, I forced gravity to pull toward me from every direction, forcibly stilling myself at the center of a crushing gravity well. My teeth ground together as I fought to ignore the screaming pain that clutched at every part of my body. Releasing all that tension, energy, and pain as a wild shout, I shoved outward. The maze ripped itself to pieces. A wall of gravity, wind, and pure mana, born force carrying an arsenal of stone plates away from me in a tide of bloody violence. I sagged, resting my hands on my knees, unable to hold myself fully upright. The resistance seemed to shrink, diminish. Looking through the curtain of gunmetal gray hair, I saw a large, flat chamber opened up around me. It was smaller than I might have imagined, and almost empty aside from the rubble strewn about. The Asura was on one knee, not far away. Bloody slashes covered his body. The real one, I was certain. He turned his head toward the center of the chamber, where a second figure rested atop a thick cushion, sat with his legs crossed beneath him and his arms resting over his knees, eyes closed. Arthur, wake up! The Asura wheezed breathlessly. No way, bro! Is she?
Is he real? Okay, bruh, let me see. 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 Is he really about to be okay? The adrenaline and flush of victory pushed down my pain, and I strode towards Gray. With a flick of my hand, stone plates scythed through the air, knocking the Asura to the ground. Claws of mana, claws of mana reached toward Arthur, accompanied by a spike of fear and disbelief from Tessia. Arthur's eyes snapped open, and he gave me a wry grin. Wait! Does he already complete it? We just skipped past him completing the fucking. Wait, what? My stomach lurched as the ground beneath me gave way. Bursts of mana exploded like fireworks in front of my eyes and echoed across the chamber, slamming into my senses from all the sides. Mentally reeling, I wrapped myself in mana and tried to desperately. So is this Arthur now, or is this is this Arthur, or is this Ren? Into my senses from all the sides, mentally reeling, I wrapped myself in mana and tried to desperately but there's no way he opened his eyes bruh. There's no way. An external force pushed on me from above, driving me downward. With a furious shout, I wrestled away control of gravity and locked myself in place. My eyes fluttered open. The dark chamber was mostly lost beneath the sea of white spots sparkling across my vision. But I could see, right beneath me, an oily, dimly shining, opaque surface. Right beneath me, an oily, dimly shining, opaque surface within a carved frame. A portal. A portal. Like one of the teleportation portals? Another battery of mana coiled with me from above. Another battery of mana. Oh, I said coiled. Another battery of mana collided with me from above, forcing me down toward the portal, which opened beneath me like the maw of some great mana beast. Understanding, I shoved downward into the portal itself, wrapping the surface and pushing it away from me as I sank inch by inch toward it. My mana wrapped around the frame, and I heaved, trying to rip it apart, destroy the portal within. But more and more mana was pressing down on me. Tidal waves of mana, inching around me. I glared back over my shoulder. Gray was flying above me. Wait, what? Gray was flying above me, where he had been. There was now a stone pedestal topped with a glowing. What the fuck word is that? Elipsod made of silvery white mana and amethyst ether. His face, framed by waving wheat blonde hair and set with golden eyes, was sharp, and his wry expression bitter and stiff. With one hand, I clawed at the portal. With the other, I reached back and attempted to grasp him. If I could drag him down with me into the portal, Tessia's panicked claws sank into the back of my mind as she struggled to exert herself. I'm sorry, Cecilia, but I can't let you do this. Okay, so Cecilia's actually doing some shit. Tessia's actually doing some shit. But I can't let you do this. Emerald vines wrapped around my arms and my throat. But after what happened with Mordain, I was ready. Within me, vines of pure mana mimicked her own, finding her spiritual essence and wrapping around it, binding it, choking, and crushing it. My focus was too divided. I couldn't fight Gray, Tessia, and a portal all at once, so she got this shit happening at the same time. I met those golden eyes and released my whole. But wait, if he's out of the portal, then we're good. But he's not saying anything though. I met those golden eyes and released my hold over the portal. Spinning my body in place, I wrenched the vines from Tessia's control and sent them snaking up. They wrapped around Gray's arms, legs, and neck, and with a jerk, pulled him toward me. The vines closed crushingly around the trapped limbs, the thorns digging into his flesh and conjuring small droplets of blood that ran down his body. I had him, and even better, I had interrupted his focus on the keystone. He would never control fate. Relief washed over me, but not my own. Distracted, I looked inward toward Tessia. She was pulling back, no longer fighting me. Above, cracks spread out from where the vines constricted around Gray's limb. It's a fucking golem! Where the blood droplets ran, they washed away the color of his skin, revealing flat gray beneath. My eyes widened, jumping from gray to the Epilisad, however the fuck you say that, conjuration of mana and ether sitting in the pedestal. Jumping from gray to the conjuration of mana and ether sitting in the pedestal. I thought of the heavy earth mana blanketing this entire cavern, of the slightly imperfect golems, and the Asura's apparent desperation as she struck out at me when I had controlled his spell. Layer after layer of deceit, all performed perfectly. Oh, so all that shit was a big ass trap. The entire place. I thought of the heavy earth attribute mana blanketing this entire cavern, the slightly imperfect golems, and the Asura apparent desperation as he struck out at me when I controlled his spell. Layer after layer of deceit, all performed perfectly. Gray, who projected none of the tension between mana and ether that I should have felt, winked at me with one golden eye. And when it opened again, only gray stone stared out of a gray face. One arm shattered, and instead of blood and bone, stone sparked, revealing the same tight rings of compaction I had noticed in the stone plates. As my back hit the portal and I felt it wrapping around me, pulling me in, Gray crumbled to dust behind where he had been. The Asura sat in a floating earthen throne, one thin brow raised disdainfully as he glared down at me, one hand pressed over his blood-darkened side. Then the world turned violet and gray, and the portal took me. Okay, cool. Okay, so this was all bullshit, yo. So wait. So if he's not really there, where the fuck is he? I mean, it would make sense to be in the fucking relic tombs, but I don't think he could be in the relic tombs. I think that's what he said. I think he said that he couldn't go into the relic tombs and do this, some shit like that. So that's crazy. That's crazy. All that shit was a big ass bluff, a big ass trap. Wow. That's crazy as hell. That's crazy as hell. I did not expect that. Okay. So it was all a big ass trap. So we don't know where he's at then. We really don't know where he's at. I mean, does anybody have any guesses as to where he's at? Because I have no clue. If all these things were a trap and all these different, like, you know, all the different places that has his signature, his mana signature or his ether signature and shit, I mean, I don't know. Where the hell could he be? I don't know. But I'm definitely surprised by this, though. I'm definitely surprised. I did not expect it to be... I didn't expect this at all. I really didn't. So, that's cool, though. That's cool. As far as this chapter goes, it's Cecilia, so it's like, it can't be that great because it's Cecilia, you know what I'm saying? So, I'll probably give this chapter like a 7. The Arthur shit surprises the hell out of me. So that's like really was like making this a better chapter than what it is. Cause if we didn't get like, oh, Arthur just manipulated all this shit with Ren and shit, it was all a big ass trap. If we didn't get any of that, this chapter would be like a fucking 4, to be honest with you. So that gives a lot of big points. The place where he first met Sylvia. Oh, so that's where you think he's at? The fucking cave? The cave? But wait, don't nobody know where that's at? Because Tessia doesn't know anything about that. The only person who would know about that place would be Sylvia and maybe Sylvie? I like that. I like that. I like that. I think, or maybe she said that was the other. Was that one of the other options that she chose that he could have been at? Or is that not one of the options that she was saying that he could be, or one of the places that she said that he could be? Because I had to go back and read that part, and I don't want to go back and read the Cecilia shit. So I like that though. I think that's a good. I think that's a good guess. I think that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. I like that. I'm inclined to agree. Arthur. I guess you're Arthur, so you already know. So, why question it, right? But yeah, this chapter was straight. Cecilia is always gonna bring a chapter down because Cecilia's just a trash ass character. But this chapter was straight though. This chapter was straight. But Cecilia mentioned Eleanor or Darth Capital. She doesn't know about Sylvie Cave. Right. Yeah, because she's going back to Tessia's memories and then her memories. So yeah, so she doesn't know about that at all. But you know who does? Cadell. But Cadell's dead, so not him. But yeah, that makes sense to me. That makes a lot of sense. And plus, it'd be far away from everybody else. So what does it mean though? So how would he be able to hide his signature? Literally, we both said the same thing. Animation City. We both said the same thing. Oh yeah, Cadell would know, but he's dead, so nobody knows. But how would he hide his signature? Like, is he doing something to like completely hide his signature, or is he doing something to like? I'm wondering, like, could she sense where he's at still, or maybe it's something else? I'm not entirely sure. What did you say? Cadell would know, but he's dead. Right. I don't know what you redacted. Anyway, but yeah, that makes the most sense. So I wonder when are we gonna? It seems like we might be going. Oh, that's the truck next to me. I was wondering what the hell was going on. It seemed like we might be going to Arthur pretty soon. I think we might be going to Arthur pretty soon after this because of her interaction with Arthur and then finding out that Arthur's not really there. I'm thinking that we might be going to Arthur pretty soon. Caught up on the chapters, and I'm glad my boy Chul. Yeah, Chul, man. I'm hoping. Listen, here's what I'm hoping with Chul. I'm hoping that Chul comes back, and he's just like a way better fighter, man. Like, I was really disappointed with how Chul ended up turning out. But if Chul can come back, and we can get Chul be just like, if we can get Chul, let me see. If we can get Chul being as strong as Winsome, that would be the shit. If Chul is strong enough to go toe to toe with Winsome, I think that would be a big ass power up. But right now, Chul has been just kind of like maybe on par with a Scythe, maybe somewhere a little bit below a Scythe. It's kind of strange because I thought he'd be a lot stronger than that. But if we can get Chul be like can go toe to toe with Winsome, I think that'd be a big ass W. But hopefully he comes back soon and does some shit. But then we also got I wonder where Gideon's at now too. If Ren's there, is Gideon still working on some shit back at Vildorio too? Because I'm kind of wondering about that. I don't know. We're setting things up, and I'm hoping that Arthur comes back in soon and we figure out what he's doing. Because I knew this shit was weird. I'm just like, he opened his eyes, and I'm just like, okay, if he opened his eyes, then that means that he finished it already, but like he couldn't have finished it. So all that shit was a big ass trap, man. They definitely fooled me. I was just like, I was kind of suspicious, but I'm just like, is it? And it was just like, nah, it was some bullshit. Pre-Chul, same level as 2 Wraiths. Yeah, I guess same level as 2 Wraiths, but that fight with Mel's, well, not Mel's, it was with Viessa, had him looking pretty pathetic, man. Like, maybe you could just say, okay, Chul doesn't do good with, illusions and anything that's not like a straightforward fight. That's his weakness, I guess. But I don't know. That fight made Chul look pretty pathetic. But even Sylvie was weaker than I thought. I thought Sylvie would be able to at least be able to defeat a Scythe, and she was fucking struggling with Melsry and shit. I'm just like, I didn't get it. I didn't get it at all. I really didn't. But we'll see. When Chul comes back, we'll see where he's at. But current Chul would definitely be stronger than previous. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. The new Chul would definitely come back stronger. He probably had more mana, had more control over his mana, and because that was his biggest because that was Chul's biggest problem. His biggest problem was that he burned out really quickly. You know, because he's half Phoenix, half Jin, so he burned out quick when he used his mana. So he's probably either going to have more control or have more mana or something along those lines. Because those elixir pearls or whatever the fuck you want to call them, those are some rare ass things. Which is kind of convenient. I'm not gonna lie. It's kind of really convenient that like, oh, Chul's getting attacked, and then he's got these fucking pearl tears, and then he uses it, and then saves Chul's life, and now Chul's stronger. But once we get some more information about Ephiodus, because I want to learn more about these Asuras. Like, what's their lifespan? Like, you know, how do they breed? Like, are they born out of eggs? Like, how many babies can you have in your lifetime? Like, I want to know more about Ephiodus and the Asuras. I feel like we're really lacking on information about the Asuras this far into the story. But, let me see what else you're saying. Chul needs more battle experience. Yeah, that's true, because most of his fighting he's done in like training. And he's fought like, you know, the Mana Beast. He fought like the Mana Beast and the Beast Glaives and shit. So that's his only experience. And plus, I don't know if he like trained with Mordain or anything like that. So I'm not sure how much experience he would have gotten from fighting him. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, Chul's cool. Chul's cool. I like this character when we first met him. When Arthur had a little like, you know, mock fight with him, I'm just like, okay, Chul's pretty cool. But yeah, so hopefully we see more of him. And I guess we're going to see what happens next. Maybe we got transition to, you know, Ellie and Alice and seeing how they react to Ephiodus. I think that'd be cool. What else could happen? See kind of what Ceres is going to do next with Kara and stuff. Maybe we might go back to Arthur and see what he's doing inside the Keystone. I don't know. But this chapter was straight, though. The chapter was straight. But if you guys haven't seen the video I did make, though, about was it the Legends of the First Empire or whatever, that story's pretty that story's pretty cool. I'm really curious to see what you guys might think about that story, because I've been liking it, but I don't know what it is with stories. Like, once you get to like the end of a story, like, you really got to do a good job with the ending, because you can start off a story really, really good, but if you fuck up the ending, it kind of makes the whole story just not good anymore. You know, it's kind of like Game of Thrones. It's just like, oh, Game of Thrones, awesome, great, whatever. But then if you fuck up the ending of the story, it's kind of like, can you really recommend somebody to watch Game of Thrones? Because it's like, oh yeah, watch Game of Thrones, but after you get past season, 4 or 5 or whatever, whatever the season is, then you just kind of want to get rid of it. But then you invest all that time into it, so it's like, why not finish until the end when you invested all that time into a story? So the ending is so important. Honestly, I think the ending is more important than the entire story. Like, if you have an entire story and it's like, the story's okay, but if the ending's great, then it's like, okay, like, it's worth watching, it's worth getting through, because you're gonna feel good and it's gonna be a good ending at the end of it. So it feel like it was worth your time to even get through all of it. But if it's a bad ending, then it's like, why the fuck did I get through all these chapters? Why did I get through all these books if we're gonna have this shit ass ending? So I'm really hoping this ending is really good. Shit, I can make a live stream video talking about what type of ending would you guys actually like in T-Bay. Like what would be a good ending for T-Bay? Is it just like, okay, let's talk about it a little bit. Let me talk about it just a little bit. So what would be a good ending for T-Bay? Because I'm thinking about it, and I'm thinking like, okay, Agrona obviously gets defeated, right? Like, Agrona has to get defeated. But then what happens with Cecilia and Tessia? Agrona killed Kessis. So Agrona kills Kessis? Okay. So, that would be kind of crazy. So what? So, okay, maybe Agrona kills Kessis, and then Agrona takes over Ephiodus? Agrona should be the final villain. See, I don't agree with that though. I don't agree. Listen, the reason I don't agree with that is because both Kez's and Agrona are both like wrapped in mystery, right? Like we haven't gotten not one POV from Agrona, and we haven't gotten one POV from Kez's. So they're both like equal, like mysterious. We don't really know how strong they are. Um, um, they're willing to sacrifice people's lives. Like they're like as far as like villain level or intimidation factor, like they're both kind of equal. At least in my eyes, they are. Agrona's done more shit, like long-term scale shit, you know, with the breeding with the humans and making the Alacrians, all that shit, right? So he's done more long-term planning as far as like evil, but he's just as mysterious as Kez. Like they're both full of mystery, right? So I would be fine with either one of them being the final villain, but their motivations are different though. But they're kind of the same at the same time. Because Agrona wants to control, but then Kez's wants to control. But Agrona wants to be all powerful, but Kez's wants to keep himself in that all powerful position. So, I don't know, man. I don't know. But me thinking about it though, I would be fine if one of them kills the other and then there's like a one final villain type of thing. But what I was thinking when you said that was that, okay, Agrona kills Kez's. So to me, I don't see Agrona killing Kez's without Agrona being in charge of Ephiodus. You get what I'm saying? So what? He kills Kez's and then now he's in charge of Ephiodus and then what? He enslaves all of the other Asuras or something? Like, I don't know how that would work. But let me read some of the comments because it's kind of been a lot of comments. Yep, just like Game of Thrones. I hope House of Dragon ends good. Oh, House of the Dragons. See, I never actually watched House of the Dragon. I think I watched maybe the first episode, or maybe the second episode. But yeah, I never finished House of the Dragon. I've been hearing that everybody's been complaining about what's the fucking creator of Game of Thrones? Something R.R. Martin, whatever the fuck his name is, that he needs to finish the actual Game of Thrones, you know, Fire and Ice. He needs to finish that shit. He hasn't finished it yet. Instead of making new stories and trying to come up with new shit, he needs to finish his actual books. So I've been hearing that complaint. But no, I never actually seen House of the Dragon. I kind of heard people liked it, but then people didn't like it. I don't know. I kind of heard mixed things about it. But let me see. Agrona kills Kez's. Agrona should be the final villain. Arthur can outsmart Kez's, but Agrona is always one step ahead of Arthur. See, Arthur can outsmart Kez's because Kez's underestimates humans. So that's his Achilles heel, as they might say, right? So But Agrona does too. Agrona's been underestimating Arthur from the fucking jump. So I don't know. Man. Agrona doesn't want to go back to his homeland though, as far as we know. Wait, you say he doesn't want to go back to his homeland? I thought that was his whole thing was that he wanted to get revenge from getting outcasted based off of what Sylvia said. Sylvia said that Agrona was, you know, banished or whatever from Ephiodus, and because what? He threatened to reveal the truth about the Jinn genocide. This is all according to her. So we don't know what really happened and how he really feels, right? But he threatened to reveal the truth about the Jinn genocide, and because of that, Kez's ended up banishing him and making all these fucking lies, talking about how he made it with a human or some shit, or he was like he did some crazy ass shit with the humans, and he messed up the treaty or whatever, and so he got banished. And so, you know, that's when he got pissed off, and he wasn't the same person that Sylvia fell in love with anymore. I forget exactly what she said, but I actually made a video about it. Actually, like it's one of my earlier videos. But I think he does want to go to Ephiodus though. I think he does want to go to Ephiodus. It's easy to be one step ahead when you've had thousands of years of prep. That's true. That motherfucker had thousands of years of prep. Which why I want to know. That's why I said before I want to know more about the Asuras, because I'm just like, how long have they actually? How long can they actually live for? You know, like in the one story that I'm reading now, the Legend of the First Empire, like they have the Frey, and they consider them gods even though they're not gods. But compared to regular humans, these Frey can live up to like 3,000 years. But compared to the Asuras, compared to the humans, they can live what 5,000 years, 10,000 years. Like we don't even know how long Agrona and Kezis have even been alive. So I really want to learn more about the Asura. That's how Agrona will be Kezis. Ptolemy gave hints in his Q&A. Kezis is rock. Agrona's is Cecilia's paper. Cecilia's paper? Why would Cecilia be any of the options? Wouldn't Arthur be paper? That don't make any sense. That's how Agrona would be. That's how Agrona will beat Kezis. So what? He's got two options now? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, Cecilia is definitely important, but I don't know. I don't know, man. I really don't know how this shit's gonna end. Remember what'd you say, Animated said? Remember what that one guy said? Why would he want to go back with a lot more people in his homeland are stronger than him? I forgot what his name was though. I think I know what you're talking about. I think it was Mordain. I think you're talking about Mordain. You might be talking about Mordain. Like, why would he want to go back to people? But they're not though. But they're not. I mean, there's a lot of strong ass people in Ephiodus, but as far as we understand, based off of what Mordain said about with Agrona and how he doesn't want to be, because remember Kezis tried to make the frame that Agrona just wants to be in charge and take over Ephiodus or whatever. But then I think it was Mordain. I think it was Mordain. Or no, I think it was Aladari. Aladari might have. I think you were talking about Aladari. I think Aladari was talking about how he wants to be the strongest, period. Like he wants to be the strongest person in the universe to where nobody can mess with him and he can basically do whatever he wants. So I think that based off of that conversation, we can assume that Agrona's either just as strong as Kezis or perhaps even stronger than Kezis. But remember, Kezis is just one person. So even if he's really, really strong, if you got, let's say, 10 dragons like Sharan and Vakajur, if you got 10 dragons like Sharan and Vakajur, and they all fought Kezis, who would win? I would think that they would win. But then again, maybe Kezis is so OP that he still would win. So I don't know, man. I just don't know how strong Kezis is in comparison to the other people, because even during that meeting with the other clans, that motherfucker Kezis just like flexed his mana, and everybody was like, "Oh shit!" Like, "Oh, we gotta keep ourselves in check. Everybody be quiet." Like the motherfucker eyes went the deeper purple, and everybody was like, "Oh shit!" Like, you know what I'm saying? So like when somebody can like flex and everybody shut the fuck up, like it's just kind of like, you know, they're top of the top of the top. So I don't know, man. I really don't know. But yeah, it seems like Agrona has done and taken steps to make himself the strongest ever, and he doesn't want anybody to be able to compete with him. That's why he did all the shit that he did with the runes to control everybody. He wants to control the source of power. Yeah, he just wants complete control. But let me see. You forget about Agrona Table, which absorbs mana. Agrona would definitely control Cecilia. Well, yeah, I completely agree with that. He's going to control. He wouldn't have brought back Cecilia in the first place and tried to mold her to be as powerful as she is if he didn't have a way to control her in the first place. And I think, like I said, the memory shit wasn't really his main mechanism of control. I think that it's that table shit. Whatever the fuck he's doing with that table to absorb mana or to teach him some shit, whatever that table is all about, That's his main mechanism to control her. Because after all, why have her be that strong and say, oh yeah, I'm gonna make you so strong, you're gonna help me win this war, and then I'm gonna send you back to your home. Why would he send her back? That makes no sense because he's gonna need her to help defend his throne. Like that's just stupid. It don't make any sense. So but yeah, that table is definitely the main source of how he's gonna be able to control her or whatever. But yeah, he either won't let her get beyond his level, or he'll let her get beyond his level, but he has a way of being able to control her and uh, keep her in check. Because he everything he does is all about control. That's why he did the shit with the runes and shit. That's why he did the shit with the staff and controlling who can get magic and all this. That's why he did the shit with the wraiths, right? The wraiths can't even do whatever the fuck they want because if they try to turn on him, fucking he can literally destroy their bodies and have their whole bodies explode if they even mention anything about revealing his plans. Like he got so many contingency plans to make sure that nobody can turn against him. It's the same thing he did with the other basilisks, right? He even had contingency plans to control them. Distracting them with what did Aldari say? He said that he was distracting them with like the experimentations and stuff like that, and he was like slowly wiping out and getting rid of more and more basilisks over the years, so that way they didn't notice because they were distracted to the point where their numbers dwindled and dwindled and dwindled. So he absorbing their mana and shit, man. It's crazy as hell. Honestly, hope girl takes. Yeah, you said Agrona takes Cecilia's powers. I could see that happening. That could be the main reason why he brought her back in that whole table thing. To once she gets to that max level or whatever the fuck. I don't know though. I don't know. You know what? He probably will. She's probably gonna get so fucking strong, have so much mana, and then he's gonna use that table, whatever the fuck, and absorb her fucking ocean levels of mana, the same way that he absorbed all the other basilisks, and then that's what he's gonna use to make himself even stronger. I just still don't understand how the fuck did he bring Arthur and Cecilia back in the first place? Like we still don't even know how he did that shit. Like that's crazy as hell. And then we found out that Cecilia's not the only legacy, and I'm just like, wait, so there's other legacies, but then there's one other legacy in the lifetime of the Asuras. So who is this other legacy? Like that shit's still kind of dumbfounding to me. We still don't even understand that. Like it's so much stuff that we haven't gotten explained. We just don't know. We really just don't know. Kez is definitely a tier above the other clan's head, at least. Yeah, right. Yes, I agree. He's definitely a tier above, right, Billy Bob? He's definitely a tier above, but like, how much further? I mean, like, is he like 5 times stronger than the heads of all the other clans? Like, if all the head of the clans came together and they wanted to fight Kezis, could they win? Like, I don't know. I really don't, man. They make Kezis out to be just... But then again, we know he's not the strongest ever, because the strongest ever, I think, and I'm only basing this off of the history. I think the strongest dragon ever was the dragon that defeated Mount Geolis. I think that dragon that defeated Mount Geolis was the strongest ever. But they also said that Kezis was so strong because he united all of the clans. And I mean, you gotta be fucking crazy ass strong to unite all the clans. So, I mean, he even united the Pantheon race, which had the fucking ability to just obliterate mana and like, I don't know. I don't know, man. I really don't. I wonder how the dragon will stay in charge once Kezis is dead. I mean, you know what? I wonder about that too. Because as far as we know that Tacy was like the person that was going to succeed Aldir. But who's the person that's going to succeed Kezis? Is there like someone they're grooming to succeed Kezis? Is there like a prince or like a I don't know. That actually is a good point. Like they gotta be preparing somebody to take over the throne ahead of Kezis. That's a really good point. Maybe there is somebody that we just don't know about that's been like getting trained and was maybe Sylvia's supposed, or not Sylvia, Sylvia. Maybe Sylvie's supposed to be that person. Maybe that's why he went and he's so desperate to like get his granddaughter so that way he can train her to be his potential successor, right? So maybe that's who it's supposed to be. But then again, who is Kez's father? Was Kez's father the previous leader of the clans? But then again, that can't be the case because the clans were all separate before Kez's united them all. So I don't know, man. I really don't know. We need to get more Asura history. That's what we really need to get. Volume 12 will be more info about the other Asura clans under Grona. Jeremy mentioned Volume 12 is going to be the final version. I mean, that's what he said. That Volume 11 will deal with the Cecilia story. Okay. Okay, we'll see. We'll see. But going back to what I was saying earlier. So how do y'all think that the story actually ends? Okay. So, I mean, you got a bunch of loose threads. So I don't think this story will end without either Kezis or Agrona dying. Because even if Agrona dies, Kezis will still be a threat to Dikathin. And as long as Arthur is alive, Kezis will still try to control Arthur. So I think that at the end of the day, Kezis will try to use Dikathin and the people to get Arthur to reveal more information about Aether so Kezis can continue to get stronger and stronger and stronger because they're all power hungry and shit. So regardless, maybe they both gotta die. Maybe they both gotta die and then they have somebody else get put as the head of the clans. Or maybe all the clans separate. I don't know, man. I really don't know. I really don't know how it went. But okay, here's what I think would be a terrible ending. A terrible ending would be, for me, I don't know, man. What would be a terrible ending? A terrible ending would be Arthur not being able to unlock Fate. That would be a terrible ending because it's just like, if he doesn't unlock Fate, all this shit was all for nothing, and it was all just a big ass waste of time. So Arthur's got to unlock Fate. It would be terrible if he doesn't. But even if he does unlock Fate, will the story really be that great if he unlocks Fate and then he just like washes Agrona, washes Kezis, and just does whatever he wants? Like, that would kind of be a terrible ending too. So I don't know. I don't know, man. This whole Fate thing, it really just depends on how strong Arthur's going to be when he gets out. When he gets out, how strong is he really going to be? I don't know. It got my head thinking. But let me see. We need a prequel story about Kezis and Mordain. I would love that. I would love a prequel about Kezis and Mordain and more about Mount Geolis and shit. Like, I would love a prequel with the Jinn to figure out what all happened with the Jinn and how they even got to that point to where they just let themselves get killed off. Like, that's just crazy as fuck to me. Like, how are you that powerful, you that advanced, and you let them just fucking kill you, man? Like, that's some crazy ass shit. Like, I still can't wrap my head around that. That shit is insane. But yeah, I would love a prequel too. Like, the whole Jasmine shit. Jasmine, I don't care about Jasmine, bro. Like, we don't need another side story about Jasmine. Like, Jasmine's cool, but like, Jasmine's not that interesting. She's really not. But oh shit. Let me see. Phone. Let me see. Sylvie would defeat Agrona. How would Sylvie defeat Agrona? I don't even consider Sylvie to even be that powerful at all. So that's interesting. Maybe you said the dragons. Maybe it'd be Kezis that defeats Agrona. I don't know. But then again, if Kezis is so strong, why don't he just go down there and just wipe his ass out, man? It just don't make any sense. T-Bait the best Manhwa. I mean, T-Bait really isn't a Manhwa though. I would consider more T-Bait just to be a novel. But then I guess you got the comic. Tomato, tomato. If all the clans go their own way, then the war's going to start up again. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. If all the clans go back separately, then it'll be. I mean, think about how the world works now. You got the big ass powers. You got, America. You got China. You got Russia. You got UK or whatever. So all the clans, they have their head of their clans, and they all have some sort of territory, right? And then whoever's at the head of the clan, they will just be in charge of negotiating. They might have alliances to where if the dragons try to attack another clan, they got alliances with another clan. They all, come together to defend each other or whatever, or if somebody becomes a tyrant, they can all band together to get rid of the tyrant, So, I mean, we need to have some sort of checks and balances. Can't just have one person in charge and they just do whatever the fuck they want. Because remember, they're doing manipulation to all the other clans, even with the whole Jin getting genocided. Like, they didn't let the clans know about what really happened with the Jin. So they're using fucking propaganda and manipulation to keep them in the dark because they don't want them to revolt, right? So, I mean, they're powerful. If they were to separate and do their own thing, I mean, I think it'll work for sure. She's the daughter of Agrona and granddaughter of Kezis. I think it's enough reason for her to defeat them and surpass them. But when though? My thing, Arthur, when? When is she gonna surpass them? Like, she's still trying to learn about her own body right now. She just switched from Vivum to Avum. So, I mean, she's still learning about that. So I don't see her getting that strong. Like Kezis, remember they said that when it comes to the Asuras, they get stronger the longer they live. Sylvie's young. Sylvie's extremely young. So I don't see her ever getting strong enough to defeat anybody. Honestly. Like, she needs like thousands of years of training, to be honest. Like, she needs way, way, way more training. So I don't see that. I really don't. Yeah, I mean, it all depends on it really all depends on who's strongest and what people's motivations are. We just really need to know more about what's going on in Ephiodus and like some of the politics. I would love to get more politics that's going on in Ephiodus. Like, who all is like scheming against Kezis? Are they willing to like team up with Arthur? Or some people might be willing to team up with Agrona. Like, everybody can't just be happy with how things are, Arthur, lesser mastering fate and defeat God Asura as a fairy tale ending. Sylvie being Asura, God having strongest bloodline, mastering fate will make more sense than Arthur. I don't know, Arthur, bro. I don't know. I don't see it. I don't see Sylvie. I don't see Sylvie being that strong, yo. I really don't. Like, I really don't. But we'll see. But we'll see though. But listen, I'm about to get up out of here, yo. I appreciate y'all joining in. If y'all can give me a like on the video, I appreciate that. And we'll see. We'll see what happens in the next video. Or not the next video. We'll see what happens in the next chapter. I'm hoping that we get Arthur and we either go back to him or we go back to Ellie and Alice and see their first impressions of being in Ephiodus. So I'm looking forward to the next chapter. This chapter was straight. Like I said, this chapter is like a 7 out of 10. But anyway, Appreciate y'all joining in. Y'all have a good night. Peace.